are New Royals, second time going live again.
Yeah,
we just decided we're liking the live thing. We see you guys are liking the live thing too. So we are excited to jump in with another night and spend a little bit of time with you, our New Royals community at the New Royals podcast. Like I said, go ahead, click, like, share, all the good stuff. If you're watching the replay here on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. And hey, blast this out to some of your friends and tell them there's a community of people that love each other, love Jesus, and love truth. And so we are excited for you. Also, if you want to just check out all the stuff that we've got going, you can check out newroyalsawakening.com. We got merch there. Paul, we got merch.
Yeah, we got merch.
We got merch. Some pretty cool shirts.
Mm-hmm.
So if you like the New Royals logo, you can check it out right over there. You can get that on a shirt, a mug, a phone case, all the commercial stuff. Capitalism is alive and well at the New Royals thing. So newroyalsawakening.com. Paulie, how is life in the great state of Texas?
Well, Texas is doing well right now. I will say we've hit a little bit of a cold front, which is always, it's always mind-blowing, even though it's November, even though it's winter in most of the country, or at least, I don't know. You'll have to tell me how Washington's doing in a minute, but we hit a rainstorm that literally just blasted all temps down 30 degrees immediately. So I'm not going to lie,
it's a balmy 70 now?
Yeah. No, try about 49 right now.
Whoa.
Outside, I think. Whoa. And it went from perfect fall weather. We literally got about 5 days of perfect fall weather, which all Texans rejoice in. And we went right from that to this. Thankfully, it's not going to last. I think it's going to get pretty again tomorrow. But other than that, man, Texas it's good right now. We're doing well in Texas. It pretty much feels normal here. We can go to restaurants, all the fun stuff, and honestly, it feels like the pandemic is over here.
We can go to restaurants too. We just have to go to the COVID testing station first and produce we get we call it's the 3-day pass.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
that's
we go to a little town just down the road, Enumclaw, and you do a COVID test, and then the next day they send you a PDF explaining, whether you're good or not, and then if you're good, you can take that PDF and show it to people. And your restaurants and whatnot. So it's just
your little story on that was one of my favorites.
It's just crazy how that all works. And I mean, I know some people that are like, it's a PDF. Like those aren't editable. But anyway, we won't talk about that right now. Yeah. So that's not. I heard that. I was just like, oh goodness gracious. But yeah, so that's what we're doing. I had to go to a friend of mine's birthday, so we had to go to the Enumclaw little COVID test there. My wife and I were both negative, even though I changed hers and sent it to her saying she was positive as a joke. But so we're good. And so that allowed us the freedom to go to restaurants for 3 days. So we still don't do it. We just went to the we are currently just kind of being a little bit of a rage against the machine right now and just supporting restaurants who are not necessarily, because this mandate here in Washington State is voluntary. It is not a mandate. It is a But I mean, I'm sure the state makes it complicated for restaurant owners, but it is very clear in the writing, small print. This is voluntary. There's nothing mandated about this. There's no consequence. So the fact that certain restaurants are not leaning towards the voluntary side is just making certain people feel a certain kind of way, even those who are vaccinated. And I know on this podcast, we don't necessarily, Paul and I used to have a podcast where we would go deep into these kinds of things. And boy, we would have had a blast with Tuesday.
Oh my gosh.
So I won't even throw that red meat out there. But we would have just had fun with Tuesday. But eventually, one time I don't know if you guys know out here in the New Royals community, Paul is a fan of sharing his thoughts of if you want, you should just follow Paul on Telegram, and that's where you'll get it. That's where you would get you could get all of Paul's deep secrets. Every once in a while, I get a little worried. I call him.
I like to share the news. That's all there is
off
to it.
that thing, but yeah,
you don't need to worry. It's a couple clicks to share. That's all.
Just a couple clicks to share. So anyway,
I would be worried if I were you if you saw me writing long diatribes.
Yeah,
I don't do
it's
that.
true. That's true. He just forwards the fun. But so that said, Washington State is a little bit of a it's rough. It's rough. But we just keep loving people and just encouraging people. Right. And the vaccinated and the unvaccinated alike, some of them have started to coalesce around this. It's not necessarily whether the vax is good or bad or indifferent. It is excuse me, big yawn. We're going late tonight. But that the idea that it's mandated and that people are like with kind of not allowing people to do certain things because of where they are, that is starting to draw some people together and be like, this could be a bridge too far. So I think kind of what we're seeing is we might see a little bit of the old gubernatorial overreach losing some of its effort here in Washington. So that's how things are in Washington. But enough of that.
Enough of that.
Yeah. Enough
if
of that.
you guys ever want to go deep on that, you're going to have to catch us and take us out to coffee or something.
Yeah.
Then we'll share
every once in a while we might get it out of our system. And we had a podcast called Way Overthinking It. You should check it out. But we might every once in a while
if
do
YouTube hasn't banned it.
We'll do a maybe what we'll call Way Overthinking It special edition where we just quarterly where it's just like there's too much. We gotta talk. It's just we gotta
get together
out of our system because because
the Way Overthinking It reunion.
Way Overthinking It. We call it the Way Overthinking It. Way Overthinking It quarterly update.
Yeah. Just
with your guest host Brandon. Okay. So anyway. So we are wonderful. Yes. So Paulie, where recalibrate us here, brother. Where are we going tonight?
Good. Talking about focus, which is ironic, right? We're refocusing right now. Tonight I want to, we spent the last 2 weeks talking about transition, and don't get me wrong, I'm still in it, and I think Sean's still in it too, and but that's okay. It's not a bad thing. Transition happens for a reason. We're all learning. We're growing with God in this season. And one thing that really stuck out to me this week was the idea of focus. And I just couldn't seem to get away with it. It kept it kept rearing its head up at me pretty much anywhere I was, whether I was reading my Bible, whether I was watching TV, whether I was doing stuff online, taking a quiz here and there, whatever it was, the idea of focus just kept popping back up. And so I really want to just kind of talk about that today, talk about the kingdom mindset of focus, the value of focus. If honestly, it really is a value. It's a value of God's. If you want to really go there, if you think about it in the Bible, when God calls somebody to do something, he's asking for that yes. And it's kind of like once you say that yes, he's really just asking you to stay on that yes. And he kind of takes care of most of the things going on around you by a biblical example. And in my experience from people I would consider successful or leaders in the faith, kind of however you want to say it, these are people every one of them I would say is probably one of the most focused people that I could think of. And so it's just something I've been meditating on a lot this week. Focus. What does focus mean for our lives? What does it mean for your life? I've been going through my own life and kind of seeing what do I need to prune? Because our pastor on Sunday said it so well. He was basically like, the enemy will mess with you when he can in any way he can. But once you get to the point where you're kind of like, you're walking as a Christian, kind of mature, kind of growing in your identity of the Lord, and all of a sudden the temptation of sin kind of is losing its hold on you more and more. And I mean, yes, anybody can still be tempted, don't get me wrong, but my point is that easy falling into temptation is kind of going away, and the enemy's realizing he can't get you there. Well, then he'll actually start introducing good things or opening up doors that could be really good seeming on the outside. And he was just talking about how even ministers have to deal with this. They might have a thriving ministry, and all of a sudden that opens up doors, and they have to make the choice to actually say no to certain things, even if it costs them money, even if it costs them influence, to stay on track with what God's doing with their life. And so through all of this, I've just been really thinking about this a lot for my life, and maybe how that pertains to transition. About sometimes maybe it's the focus that is keeping us stuck in the transition. So I'm still in it, but it's just something I've been processing this week and wanted to process with you.
No, that's awesome. So I think one of the things about focus, and a couple of weeks ago we talked about, remember we were talking about Paul when he was called out onto the waves, right? He's called off the shore, or Peter, excuse me. I knew it was something that began with P. Like I said, you saw me yawn tonight. It's already.
You're late. I'm 2 hours later than you, man.
I know, right? Well, I had to coach my daughter's soccer game tonight in the cold, and actually, and I bring this tent because it rains here in the Northwest. So I bring this tent, and it's just windy and crazy rainy, and I'm like looking over at this tent as I'm like, setting up the drills, and I'm looking over this tent and looking over this tent, and then I just look away and I'm focusing on setting up the girls in their drills, and all of a sudden I hear whoa, and it's my canopy spinning array, going down the field, and the legs are bending and breaking, and so I was chasing that all night tonight, so I'm a little tired from that as well. So, but anyway, yes, Peter being called out onto the waves, but one of the key components that we glean from that is where was his focus?
Yeah.
Yes.
And
it was so when you have your eyes on the Father, it's not just that you have your eyes on the Father. When you have your eyes on the Father, it's what you're seeing in return. Right? Because in the eyes of the Father, you are going to see the acceptance, you're going to see the love, you're going to see the value, what it speaks to you. We were kind of talking about that a little bit earlier tonight before the show. Sometimes when people speak to you, and they're just like, you can do anything, you can do this, and
not always the best advice.
It's a double-edged sword, right? Sometimes you're just like, yes, I can. And then it's like 5-6 people, especially when you're in a difficult situation and like, you can do it, you can do it. And you're just like, shut up. It's like, come on, man. You don't know what I'm facing right now. And but the truth is, they are seeing, unless you're just surrounded by a bunch of liars, they are actually saying what they see.
Yeah, totally.
They're actually articulating what they believe about you. I mean, if you're looking at somebody that you don't actually think can do anything, you're not going to say, you could do anything. I have a couple of friends.
Like, maybe you should try.
Well, no, I did. I had a friend who talked to me. I have a couple of friends actually who got into the real estate business, and they asked me what they thought, because I'd been in the real estate business, and I'm kind of moving some real estate stuff again, but they asked me, so you've been in it, what do you think? And I couldn't do it. I couldn't be like, yeah, man, yeah, totally. I was like, you're gonna have a hard time, and it's not that they're not nice. They're just not very charismatic, totally. And you don't have to be charismatic to be real, but there has to be an ability to reach out to a network, talk to a network, just, do very people-y type stuff. And he was just not a people-y type person. He was kind of phlegmatic, low key, doesn't really like to talk, but he liked the idea of doing real estate. And I'm like, I don't know. I said, it's going to be harder for you. I'm not saying you can't do it. It's just going to be harder for you. And he failed miserably. He didn't do anything. Yeah. But but it took him like 4 months to figure that out. But if you have a good group of people around you, right, they are going to be those people that you've got people around you like, you can do it. And sometimes it's a little painful because it's one of those things where they are seeing something and you're not necessarily vibing with what they're saying, because you've got your own internal struggles, your own battles, kind of some of the walls that maybe you're up against, and so you just don't feel like you're going to be able to meet that and match it. And so it's really, really challenging to believe it and to embrace it. But with a little humility, you can be like, okay, yes, this is what's true. And I think that's what Peter was facing, was in that moment. Peter is got a choice to keep his eyes on the Father, and by keeping his eyes on the Father, he is also receiving from the Father what the Father believes about him. The Father would not have called him out onto the water if he didn't know that by keeping his eyes on him, he would make it. Right?
Absolutely.
He actually even knew it so much to the point that even when he got his eyes off the Father and onto the waves, and the waves started to overcome him, that Jesus was still like, well, I still know that there's a way out of this. I'm still the way out of this, Peter. I still got you.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a profound, thought there. So
absolutely.
That's one of those things that keeping our eyes on the Father is a great focus, not just because it's like, okay, stare at Jesus, stare at Jesus, stare at Jesus, stare at Jesus, but being able to also recognize that in that you are becoming what you behold, right? And you're gleaning strength and you're gleaning hope from that focus on the Father and not circumstantial, stuff flying around.
Yeah. Well, it goes to like the renewing of the mind, Romans 12:12 or 12:2, and be transformed. But that, like, so you've gone through a sozo. I've been through sozos, and inner healing it's all about that. I used to help people with inner healing all the time. And the truth is, you think about it, what you're saying is that focus on the Lord, because most of inner healing is weeding out lies that we believe. Well, what happened is that lie got in, and when we're going through a bad time, we're focused on something that's not God. So focus has almost everything to do with our emotional state of being, our mental health at the point, wherever we're at. But it also has to do with like this practical level of even work, what you're doing with your life, being like parenting, being intentional. Focus just comes into play in so many aspects. And so that's like, just like on a personal level, something I'm going through right now is that I have all these things going on. And this year has been kind of a year of my world, kind of everything I used to kind of be a part of, the momentum I had in my life has all disappeared this year. All of it in ministry, business, all of it. It just was gone. And I was left in this place of kind of, okay, there's a reason for this. And I worked through depression, which there's a video where I tell my testimony on the YouTube, our YouTube channel. But there's also, so I was working through that and I was grateful for that. But then as I came out of it, it was like, okay, I have all these ideas now. I feel alive again. Right. I feel ready to try things. And I tried all these things. And the truth is that some of them did a little better than others. And the New Royals is one of those things I've been working on. But I had to kind of start looking at myself and be like, is everything I'm doing really what I'm made to do? Because I've known for a long time, that what I'd love to do more than anything else is help people get into their identity with God more and grow more intimate with the Lord. I love seeing people have breakthroughs, all of that. But then I also live in this place where I know as of a few years ago that God, and maybe it's temporary, but it's still there, that God called me to step down from a position in the church and to actually be out in the world more. And so I'm like, okay, I'm navigating this place of, I know what I live for, what brings me most life, what I am on this earth to do is, and helping people. But I'm also like, I'm not doing it in a place where would be the most obvious place to do it. And so I've been navigating that for a few years now. And I kind of thought like, all right, well, in the season that I've been out here, I've learned some things about business that I loved, but all these new things popped up that were good things for the most part. But I'm like at this place now where, is it my focus that has been holding some things back, or is God just allowing me to refocus in this season? But the actual aspect of focus is definitely right in front of me right now, and I can't escape it. And what I'm just trying to figure out is what that exactly looks like for me. And I know that when God does these things through me, part of the gift of and call of what I love to do is that I get to share with a lot of people my process. While I'm in it. And so that's what I'm doing right now, because I believe that these little nuggets are also going to provide breakthrough for somebody else.
That's one of the things we are, again, one of the other things we were talking about before the show was my daughter likes Dude Perfect And I was telling Paul that if you watch the very first Dude Perfect, if you're not familiar with Dude Perfect, just check it out on YouTube. It's absolutely amazing. 5 Christian guys. They're love
crazy.
Jesus. They have fun, and they're just absolutely good. They have built a sports trick shot comedy, just positive, just empire, and it's huge now. Where one video will get like 7.7 million views in a week. They're doing a tour, all over the country where they're doing all this stuff. If you look at their very first YouTube video, it is them in a backyard it's an old Rambler and, in like a Chevy truck or something like that. And they're just doing some crazy trick shots and whatnot. And it's just fun, And now this channel has just millions and millions and millions of subscribers. They all have multi-million-dollar homes and whatnot. And I just thought it's interesting because if you look at where they started from, and not saying that that's what it's all about, but hey, it doesn't hurt. It looks kind of fun. But if you look at where they started from, it wasn't like all glamorous and amazing and wonderful and super, awesome. It was, just kind of these little iPhone cameras shooting these little crazy shots, and all of a sudden they made something happen out of it. That's kind of the fun, way of when we talk about process. You've been listening to the last couple of our podcasts, and sometimes it is, you're thinking, okay, it's the new Royals. We really just want to share our hearts and hopefully, just impact people profoundly with, what I would call like, Bill Johnson moments where Bill Johnson just, talks and you're just like, what? And you realize you're drinking from 50, 60 years of a relationship with Jesus that involves a lot of process. And so it's kind of interesting to think, here we are kind of in this season where you could almost want to be like, all right, well, let's talk about something we're really solid at tonight in the podcast. And it's like, no, this is where we are. And we're in the middle of this, and 2 months from now, we won't be here. 2 months from now, we'll be in a different place. And but there's something to just kind of sharing from where we are and where our journeys. And it's just kind of funny. It's kind of Paul and I's journeys have kind of synced up. I come out of 5 years of running a very, very successful company that kind of collided with the industry during COVID, and so I have found myself kind of starting over in a way and creating some new things. And, just in the same way that when I created my company, I worked for free for a year, 3 partners, and we worked for free for a year, and it was focus. That was our goal. Focus. I didn't even look at our bank account for the first year. I mean, I knew I had money coming in. That's all I needed to know, that there's money coming into the company, but I didn't even look for the first year. And after the first year, the 3 of us got together. We all flew to Washington. Everybody, they were East Coast, and we all came to Washington. We sat down and was like, okay, I guess it's time to pay us. And we got an instant pay raise, and it was big. It was a good one. It was a good pay raise. We went from making nothing to making something really fast. But it's because for a year, we just stayed focused. We didn't worry about needing to pay ourselves. We paid ourselves a little bit sometimes, to survive, and we all kind of had little side gigs and whatnot. But we stayed focused for a year, and then it paid off. And but now all of a sudden, I kind of find myself in that position where I'm like, oh boy, we are starting over again. And we've sold our company, or in the process of transitioning our company. We actually were going to sell it, and then that kind of fell apart. So it's like, oh, great. And it's like, okay, we're back to focus again. And Jesus, where is your face in this storm? And there are days that are like, oh, waves. And then there are days that's like, okay, Jesus, I see you again in this. So, if you're going through something like that, be hopeful. We're hopeful. We're hopeful for us.
Absolutely.
We're hopeful that God is good, and we're hopeful for you as well. And so I'm kind of looking at this as like our historical record. 2 or 3 years from now, I'll look back and go, you should watch some of our initial episodes of New Royals and see exactly what it was we were doing, and the thing we were processes as we were trying to build this and kind of build a sustainable community that yeah. So I get that is a good target to have in the future, to be able to recognize, wow, this too shall pass. And it was funny because my daughter looked at me last night. We were doing our prayers and whatnot. And she looked at me and she's like, "You can do all things through Christ who strengthens you, Dada." And I was
that's awesome.
Yes.
That's so good.
Yes. Yeah, it's fun.
I love when the kids do that.
I don't know. That was my little rant there.
That was beautiful. So the other day I was kind of faced in a situation where I was like wanting God to bail me out again. And he's done it so many times in the past, and I was just facing that situation again. I was like sitting there and I had the thought while I was sitting there kind of processing all this emotion and like, oh God, I just wish you'd do something here. It wasn't like God spoke to me, but I just had this thought all of a sudden, like, well, what could I do different? And that is, it's not that I've never thought that before. I've thought that many times in my life, but there was something different on this time in this situation, because in the past, in those situations, I literally didn't even know another option other than just be like, okay, God, we're literally at the point where like, I don't even know what to do. And this time I got to that point where I was like, I don't know what to do. And then something came like inside of me that was just like, but could I find something? And that was different. And part of it, I think, is because the day before I'd kind of committed to focusing again, and it kind of just, it like renewed a strength in me. And so I'm just moving forward and not like anything crazy has happened since, but there was just a shift inside me. And I wonder if, in fact, no, I don't even wonder. I know for sure this has happened, that with all that's happened in the last year and a half, COVID, a crazy election, all this stuff that's going on in the world, the vaccine stuff, and, it doesn't matter what side of the fence you're on, it is distracting as all HE double hockey sticks. It's like it can like pull us in so easily, and it's so easy to just keep getting distracted right now. And then if that gets overwhelming, then we want to get distracted somewhere else, and whether it's Netflix or video games or whatever it is, or just even getting outside and doing something where your mind goes away, which is great when it's time for that. But if we're just trying to escape, or if we're getting pulled in every direction, all of that takes away our focus. And I know some people just need to survive through this season, and I get it. Trust me. I literally just had that season for 8 months earlier this year. Sometimes you just got to survive. But I also feel that a lot of us right now are starting to feel this agitation and frustration because we know that season's over, that survival mode season's over. But now we got to get out of it. And I know God's doing stuff. He's doing a lot of stuff. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But I think there's certain people right now who were in that season for a long time, but now maybe you've been walking with the Lord 20 years, 30 years, maybe 10 years, but you just run after him and you've really grown in the Lord. Whatever it is, you've hit this point now where he's like, that's great. I love you. I'm so glad where you got to. I'm so glad you survived this. It's like, now what are you going to do?
Right.
Are you going to trust that which was in your heart a year and a half ago?
Right.
And then all this hell broke loose on earth. And yeah, you had to survive it. You did all you could do in that season. But now, are you ready to come back to that? Because it's going to look different. But
sure.
But you got to find that thing inside you now to go forward again.
Yeah.
So that's something.
No, it's 100% true. It's just, and everybody's process is different. That's one of the things that we've got to keep, in front of us is, we're all different. We all function differently in this family, and we all are going to hear the Lord differently and walk with the Lord differently. So, it's not a cookie cutter that you are to, kind of walk it out. And again, it's just a lot of it is, we were doing this morning doing declarations, and it was funny because even in the car I was just like, let's do offering reading number 1, because it's a great declaration. If those of you don't know what it is, check out Google Bethel
Bethel inside reading. Joke.
Yes, offering reading number 1, as we receive today's offering. And it's amazing because my daughter, it's programmed. She's got it. She knows it by heart. So, but I was just saying that we were saying our declarations, and one of the great things about declarations is it does help you with focus.
It really does.
It immediately just, I guess attack is the wrong word, but it kind of does. It immediately just attacks those areas of thinking where you're not in alignment with truth, right?
Yeah.
You can just, say, and Steve Backlund has some amazing declarations, but, we were reading off some declarations, and as I was reading it, I would instantly kind of engage with, oh wow, I'm not thinking that way right now. Like this declaration is flying in the face of what it is I'm thinking. And so it's good and it's important to allow your focus to be calibrated by a truth or a declaration or a passage of scripture or something that allows you to be calibrated, because that's part of, I don't know if if you've dealt with engines and whatnot. Most of us don't lift the hood of our cars anymore. I used to. I mean, I'd change carburetors or water pumps or all sorts of things. And then I bought what car was it? Oh, okay. Well, this sounds terrible, but okay. So at one point in my life, I owned a Mercedes SLK.
Okay.
And when I lifted the hood, it was a two-seater. It was a little two-seater roadster. It's before we had the kid. So my wife and I, and I bought it and I lifted the hood, and literally all it was just one giant cap with a Mercedes logo across the top of it. It basically just said, "Don't bother."
Yeah.
Like there's nothing here that you can do.
We want to keep you out.
Yes. So take it to the dealership. And which was great because the 30, 60, 90 on the Mercedes was actually not very expensive. So we take it to the dealership, and it was a pretty good running car. So everything. But every car I did before that, timing belt. You had the timing belt, and you had a little calibrator on there, and that's how you get the timing of your car. And so you would create that focus where everything was aligning up, and things would function better. Then you buy the newer cars, or any of my cars. Even now I have a Jeep Grand Cherokee. Lift the lid, and it's just the lid, and just basically says, "Don't bother, don't do this." But it's because they have tools that are specifically designed to make this thing run. I mean, the majority of the cars today are hooked up to a computer, and it's the computer that goes, and it's like, oh, okay, this is what needs to be fixed, this is what needs to be changed, and it's just absolutely, just amazing how those things work. And so it's one of those things where, it's kind of a calibration. The truth is the math, right? The truth is what does this need to do to be, running in sync? And that's what scripture is for us. That's what declaration is for us. That is what just sitting in the presence of the Lord and listening to him talk is for us. It is a calibration of us aligning ourselves to what is truth and allowing that to kind of butt heads in so to speak. That word metanoia, to change. One of my favorite ways of hearing kind of the definition of repentance is taking sides with Jesus against my own thoughts. Does that make sense? It's kind of an interesting, kind of concept. It's, taking sides with Jesus against my thoughts, and kind of, I
love that,
taking his sides and looking at what I'm thinking and going, oh yeah, I agree. I agree with him.
I want to be on that side.
I don't agree with that. And then
totally,
kind of going, shoo, we're not doing this. So
the
truest version of repentance is, just taking sides with Jesus against the way you see yourself, the way you see your future. And a lot of that has to do with it. And I'll kind of wrap with this. I was talking to a friend, and it was like, because there is something to belief, right?
Oh yeah.
There is something to obedience. There is something to character, and there also is something to belief as a principle. Because my friend was telling me, he was like, God, he's like, I see these people who are thriving and they're succeeding, and he's like, and they're just garbage people. I mean, they're not garbage, but I mean, you know what I'm saying? He's just like, they're just not good people. Like, I know them, and I don't understand why it's working. And I was like, but they believe.
Yeah.
Like, they may have some quirks, and they may be even kind of messed up, but they also believe that they can be successful, or they can believe that they can do well at something. And even though they may be just kind of messed up in life, they have a belief system that's going to work. Yeah. And that principle operates like gravity. And so if you can be as principled and as wonderful and as obedient as you want, I hope this isn't controversial what I'm saying, but if your belief system is, I'm I'm just, if your belief system is that you are to decrease, right? And I said this to a friend a couple of days ago. He's like, well, you know what it is? When John the Baptist saw Jesus, he said, he must increase and I must decrease.
I must decrease.
And I just looked at him and I went, that is the most theologically unsound interpretation of that scripture I've ever heard in my life. Because if the Lord truly wanted you to decrease, trust me, my friend, he can organize it right now.
Oh, yeah.
Literally, he could just be like, you're decreased.
Yeah. I know.
You're gone. He's called us to thrive.
Oh, yeah.
And
I want to write a book someday about all the big things taken out of context in scripture. Because there's so many of them.
That one's terrible.
That's a biggie.
I mean, I don't know how you fix that one, but my fix on that one is pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
John is referring to, John is a prophet of living in an old covenant.
Yeah.
Jesus represents the new covenant. He represents the new grace that is coming.
Yeah.
John is baptizing in water, and Jesus is like, here comes the fire, y'all. And and John is saying, what I'm doing is going to decrease because this is excuse me microphone. This is this is the new covenant that is here to save the world.
Yeah.
And let's get on board with that train. And
Absolutely.
so it is not a invitation for you to be like, I must decrease. And just, self-debase. So I don't know. That was I'm a little
no, it's so good because God's whole point is not, and this goes with the focus because it is about mind transformation. It's about, which is belief. It's like the more you transform your mind, the more you believe for things, the more it happens. But on the flip side of that, it's just like James writes that faith without works is dead. It's like you cannot believe more and stuff not happen more in your life. It's just how it works. And this is not just in the Christian faith. This is like literally proven in science, sociology. I mean, when I took my first sociology class,
say that 3 times fast.
18, and when I was 18 in college, I remember one of the main things I learned in that class, which was a great class, by the way. It was one of the few professors I had. It was just a genius, but he talked about how it's the self-fulfilling prophecy is a thing. And it's like what you believe about yourself and where you'll go, it almost always happens eventually, as long as you hold on to that. It's a proven thing in sociology. The other thing is that, I don't know if you know who Scott Adams is. He's the writer of Dilbert, creator of Dilbert, and now he's kind of like he's also a pundit now. Okay. But he's great. And he wrote in my opinion, the best success book I've ever read. Not from a Christian perspective. As far as I know, he's atheist or agnostic, but he is very big into like hypnosis and psychology. But he wrote this book called How to Fail at Everything and Still Succeed. And it is such a good book. Like there's so many good things in there. And it's honestly, the kingdom is written all in that book. But one of the things he talked about, how he got to success where he's at, is he called it affirmations. And affirmation is just a declaration. What he did is he would post stuff all over his house, and he'd say like, I'm going to be a great cartoonist someday. I'm going to have a successful comic strip someday. I'm going to have a syndicated comic strip someday. I'm going to this someday. I'm going to be healthy.
Wow.
All these things. On. One of his things he had is that he literally had a disease that took away his voice, and it was never supposed to come back. And a lot of his money he made from public speaking events. Well, he had his affirmations like, my voice will come back. And he would say it as best he could, like whisper, and it came back. He healed from it.
Wow.
So and it's just such a great chapter, but it shows you that principle of declarations, affirmations, self-fulfilling prophecy. It's all the same thing.
Yeah.
What it does is, as we repeat it to ourselves, is we stay focused on these things, these truths, and not just truths about, say, God's character or about what God did on the cross for us, but truths about what we can do with our lives, what we believe God's put in our heart to do. As we keep feeding ourselves that and staying focused, it removes all the clutter. And it's incredible what it does for our lives. And like I said, that's not me just pointing to the Bible and saying, look at a story here, or pointing to, Martin Luther in the 15th century saying, look what happened here. It's saying, no, modern sociology agrees with me.
Right.
So it's incredible. It's an incredible principle.
we serve a God who created gravity. You know, gravity functions whether you're saved or not. And so the belief system, our belief systems function whether you're saved or not, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, declaring who you are and understanding who you are. I mean, I think what you get is you get the beautiful cosmic advantage when you know the Lord, because because being and doing can only provide so much.
Yeah.
You know, I heard a person say, you know, money doesn't buy you happiness, but at least it buys you the time to find what you like to do. You know, I was like, but
that's good.
But I think we kind of get this beautiful cosmic advantage because even if you have everything, some of the most miserable people I know are millionaires.
Oh,
right?
Yeah,
Because because there's probably nothing more just awakening than to have everything you need and want and still feel empty.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
So it's kind of kind of shows us, listen, that's not what we're designed for. We're not designed. Material success is not the end all be all. It's to know who we are. It's to love. It's to be love. It's to release. You know. And so, but having things function in life and to be blessed and to work out, great. It's an awesome bonus. It's a principle. But those affirmations are very much a biblical principle that plays itself out whether you are, you know, whether you're saved or not. That principle of belief. I mean, the entire crux of the foundation of who we are is a belief in a God who chooses to be unseen.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
He chooses that. He could show up and materialize, and many billions of us have asked on a regular basis, man, if you could just come visit and we could talk right now, you know, it would be great, super helpful. And yet there's something that I just have to, you know, I concede and say there's something about not being able to just like tangibly sit with you that must be the better way, you know?
Yes. Yes, totally.
And sometimes that takes a faith journey just to do that.
Oh yeah. Well, I think too, like how. No, sorry. Finish your thought.
Well, no, I was just going to say to walk that way and to walk life that way. To allow, and what I was going to say is this is kind of what I was going to say, and this is one of the things that I'm wrestling through and processing through, because you and I both are I wouldn't say I'm a fan of current events. I used to be a fan of current events. I was a fan of it. I loved to be entrenched in it. It was a good conversation. You know, I love to throw socks at the TV kind of thing. I think now it's interesting because I was drawing early in COVID. I would draw. I grabbed a notebook and I would draw and I would write and I would declare. And, you know, the time the blessing, you know, remember the blessing song came out around that same time. And you know, it was funny because we were listening to it and a lot of people, I don't even think they knew what they were saying when they were talking about how great this song is. I mean, it became an anthem for the early years or the early months of COVID. And I would just draw in my journal and I would just weep. And I would just like, man, what is going on here? And the Lord give me pictures and it was just really, really, really a good time. And but one day I drew a picture of an iPhone and I wrote the words in the middle of the screen, scrolling for hope. And I realized that I was doing that. I would scroll through Twitter to find out, you know, are the numbers going down?
Exactly. Just one good thing.
Is there a vaccine? You know, are numbers going down anywhere? Is there any countries? And remember, this was early in the days when it was like, you know, if a country was starting to beat it, you started to have a hope. And then we started to go into summer and they said, well, summer is going to be the end. Well, you know, now we're, you know, 2 summers in. And but anyway, so I find that what I do at times is I will get into media to see if things are flipping.
Yeah.
If anything's changing. And what I realize is I'm looking for hope.
Absolutely.
And I realize I'm looking for hope.
That's so good. Yeah.
And there is no hope. even on their best day with their best news that they could come up with.
Yeah, that's not where our hope
that's
is.
not a place of hope. It's good
so
information, and there can be some
Yeah.
encouraging stories that come out of it.
Absolutely.
But what I find today, like I had this really great prayer time with my family, and I came downstairs and I turned something on because they were just talking about something, and I was just kind of getting ready, doing my work day, and just kind of starting some things in my office downstairs, and so I had it in the background, and all of a sudden I noticed about an hour later I just felt like icky. I just felt like I was like upset and angry and frustrated at how people felt about Tuesday, which Tuesday was amazing, and there was people like how they hated it, and I can't believe this happened. I mean, just here, give me one way overthinking moment. People saying that how it was racist that someone won in Virginia, and I'm like,
crazy.
Do you realize that it was like the guy who won governor was a white guy, sure, but the lieutenant governor was an African American Jamaican woman, and the other one was a Cuban. I'm like, how is this? How you lost him? And everything inside me is just like, how do you people even think this way? And I realized that's what things going on inside me. So now all of a sudden, my focus has shifted from the amazing peace I had in the morning to and that's toxic sludge.
Oh yeah, it's
toxic sludge.
So bad.
And I'm like, if you want to get healthy, you can't get a lot of doses of that.
No,
because there's nothing sustainable in it.
Yeah,
and that's what it's designed for. It's designed to upset you. It's designed to get you riled, and it's designed to keep giving you lost leaders, even on the conservative side. All you Newsmax, and Fox News fans. It's designed to get you riled up, so that you're waiting for the next story, and it's just like the kingdom people, our advantage is knowing that we have something else to focus on, and that we have a hope that is eternal, and a hope that and a Father that loves us, and that is a far better, far more healthy focus. Rant
Absolutely.
over.
Yeah. No, and I don't know. And I just want to say, like, you're not saying, and I know you're not saying this, but it's not that we don't pay attention to what's going on. It's about knowing how much attention to pay. It's knowing, working that out with the Lord. Like, as soon as your peace starts leaving, you need to get out. And I think that's part of the focus right there. And I think one of the last things I wanted to talk about before we go, kind of finishing up here, is just that, earlier you were talking about the person who's super obedient and might have the best character, and yet stuff just doesn't seem to work out for them. And what I feel like I've learned over the years is that, and this is not a judgment on anybody, because we've all different. I'm just saying this is, in some circumstances, I've noticed this. So if this is you, please don't take this I'm judging anything or saying that. I've just noticed this in some people. Some people who are in that place of obedience and have great character, and yet haven't prospered, and they're getting older now, and they're struggling, and they're looking at others like, well, that's not fair. And we were talking about belief. One of the things is there's a belief of you can stay in, it can be an orphan spirit, or even a victim mentality, or even just staying where Jesus said, I no longer call you servants, but friends. And you don't elevate from, like, I've seen people who don't elevate from the servanthood to friendship, where they love Jesus and they're going after him, and they'll like obey everything. And I can say this as somebody who's been in those seasons myself, where I've caught myself, and I used to live in that place before I got set free of it. And sometimes I still go back, and it's a belief thing. And it honestly, it prohibits you from getting out and prospering in the way God wants us to prosper. I can't remember what book it talks about it, but it's basically the inheritance is saved for us when we're immature. It's like reserved for us, and we're taken care of, and then we're grown, but it's meant to be turned over to us as we grow up. And we all have an inheritance on this earth. And I'm not saying it's like we're all meant to be millionaires or billionaires. That's not what I'm saying. But we are all meant to live an abundant life. Jesus promised that to us.
Right.
And it's not supposed to be like we're looking for, we have to go to the soup kitchen when we're, 50, and like, no, we're meant to progress in life just like we progress in our faith. And yes, there'll be up and down seasons, but the overall trend of things is to continually progress up.
Glory
and that's
glory.
why yes, exactly. And that includes a lot of our natural circumstances. And obviously somebody's going to come in with an example, and I'm going to be like, yes, there's always examples of battles that somebody had to fight and get knocked back. But I'm talking about the general principle.
Right.
It's just like the general principle that you and I believe, that like Jesus wants us all to be healed, and yet not everybody sees it in this lifetime. And so, but Proverbs, there's a reason it says, it's a righteous man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And it's not talking about your good name. It's talking about like material things, money, all that, investments. And so assets, basically. And
Bitcoin.
To leave an inheritance to your children's children, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
It really is. And so you have to have done somewhat well for yourself in a way, shape, or form. And if you look even in Jeremiah 29:11, everybody loves to quote that verse. Well, what's surrounding that verse? A lot of talk about how the Israelites prospered in Babylon.
Right.
And we just, it's so easy for us to miss these things.
Right.
But I just want to encourage all of us, and I'm speaking to myself here too. If we stay focused on Jesus and focused on his eyes and focused on our relationship with him and focused on stepping out of servanthood into friendship, that's a big step. We're all sons already. We're all learning how to be sons, but that's a step of that mental hurdle that some of us can get stuck on. And it takes focus to get there. Yeah. And I think we're all on a different journey of that. I know I am. Right. But as we grow in that, all these other things fall into place as well. And I just think that's something that we're that's not maybe talked about enough. Yeah. And
whoa.
I think my dog's trying to get into our food.
Speaking of which, no, I think it was great. I think if you read that Jeremiah 29:11, it's amazing. You've got the prophetic. We experienced that a couple of years ago, right? All the prophets, we're gonna get out of this. This is gonna happen. I'm sitting here going, no, man. We're going to have to learn how to thrive in this. We're going to have to learn how to not put our trust in a man and put our trust in the Father, be the church, thrive, build houses, plant gardens, give your sons to wives, because after 70 years has passed, behold, I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord. It's just such a wild concept. So I hope this has been a little bit of an encouragement, or a lot of bit of an encouragement to you. Stay tuned. We've got a couple other really exciting things that'll be coming out here in the next few days. And yes, there will be an episode of The Feed. I promise.
He's coming back.
Promise we're going to do an episode of The Feed, and we'll have it. It'll be good to go. So we're really, really excited. Thank you guys for staying up late with us tonight, or early in the morning if you are just jumping in. So we will see you next week. Have a great night.
Bless you guys, and I'll just leave you with a little homework just for one time. Write down some declarations or affirmations, whatever you want to call them, and just a few things to stay focused on. And
there you go.
Let's see where we are all at next week.
Yeah, throw some of your declarations in the comments below.
Yeah, we'd love to hear them.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.